Ever heard about the Volkswagen robot suicide?
Oh, yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, it's been making the rounds again recently. It's a pretty catchy story. A robot in Germany just decides, I guess you could say, decides to attack and kill a worker.
Right.
It really got people talking about the dangers of AI and, well, I guess, killer robots, basically.
Yeah, the whole like robots taking over the world kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're going to do a deep dive into this case. Try to like separate fact from fiction,
All right. Sounds good.
see what really went down. We're going to be looking at an excerpt from Texto Colado.
Oh,
They
interesting.
did a really good job of breaking down the incident and the aftermath.
Yeah, I think I remember reading that.
So to set the scene, it's 2015. We're in a Volkswagen factory in Bonnetal, Germany, right?
Okay.
And, like a lot of factories these days, they're using robots for some of the work, specifically installing some part of a car. And during this installation, a worker is killed by one of these robots. It's a tragedy, no doubt about it. Yeah, absolutely.
But here's the thing, we always imagine, you know, when we hear killer robot, we think of like, I don't know, the Terminator or some advanced human-like android.
Right.
Right.
Science fiction stuff.
Right. But that's not what we're dealing with here. This was an industrial robot, the kind designed for very specific repetitive tasks.
Like over and over.
Yeah, exactly. And it's supposed to operate within a secure area, meaning it's supposed to be separated from the human workers for safety.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's where this whole robot suicide thing starts to break down.
Right. Like, how can a robot commit suicide?
Yeah, it's a very catchy headline. I'll give them that. But it's completely misleading and inaccurate. And I think it really just plays into our cultural fascination with dystopian AI narratives.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, we love those stories of machines becoming self-aware and turning against us.
Totally.
It makes for good movies and TV shows, but the reality of this Volkswagen case is far from that.
I mean, it's definitely not a robot uprising or anything like that. Right. There's absolutely no evidence that the robot acted independently or deviated from its programming. It was just doing what it was programmed to do, sadly, within a set of circumstances that allowed for this tragic outcome.
Okay, so if the robot didn't, go rogue, like what really happened?
So the investigation actually concluded that this was a case of human error.
Oh, okay.
They found out that during the installation process, the safety barriers that are supposed to separate the workers from the robot's operational space, they were deactivated.
Uh-huh.
Now, why they were deactivated is unclear, but the result was that the worker was able to enter the area while the robot was still active.
So the robot was just, doing its thing. Then the worker got in the way.
Exactly. And because the robot's task was to install this specific part, it continued to do so even with the worker in its path, tragically leading to the fatality. What's interesting is that there was another worker present at the time who was unarmed, which really highlights the localized nature of the incident. Like, it wasn't like the robot was targeting anyone specifically or going on a rampage. It was just following its program in a very limited space, unfortunately, with tragic consequences.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Now, I know this might seem like, just a freak accident,
Mm-hmm.
and on one level it was, but I think it raises some really important questions about, as we're seeing more and more automation in factories and even in our homes,
Right.
how do we ensure safety?
Yeah, like what are the safety protocols?
Exactly. What kind of safeguards do we need in place, especially as robots become more complex and integrated into our lives?
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more of these collaborative robots or cobots that are designed to actually work alongside humans.
Right, cobots. I think I read somewhere that they're often designed to be more flexible and adaptable than the traditional industrial robots.
Yeah, which means that they might be operating in closer proximity to humans, so that definitely raises a whole new set of challenges when it comes to safety.
Because it's not just about physical barriers anymore. It's about making sure that the cobots can sense and respond to their environment in a way that prevents accidents.
That's a really good point. Like, how do you make sure that a cobot can understand the nuances of human movement and intention?
Exactly. That's a really good point. And then there's the question of, responsibility. Like, if a cobot does cause harm, who's liable?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Is it the manufacturer, the programmer, the operator?
It's a complex issue, for sure. But I think, even though this Volkswagen case was sensationalized, it does serve as a powerful reminder that technology, no matter how advanced, is not infallible.
Right.
And we need to be really thoughtful about how we integrate these systems into our lives and prioritize safety and ethical considerations at every step of the way.
I totally agree. It's not enough to just focus on making machines smarter. We have to think about the potential risks and make sure we have safeguards in place to protect people.
Absolutely. And I think this case, it involved human error, but it really highlights the need for ongoing vigilance and a commitment to responsible innovation
Hmm.
as we move forward with all this new technology.
Yeah, it's something we all need to be thinking about, as individuals, as a society.
Right. What do we think is acceptable risk? What kind of future do we want to build with these machines? It's not an easy question to answer. It's definitely something that we need to keep discussing.
I agree. And I think it's a conversation that needs to involve everyone, not just the people who are building the technology.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of our deep dive today, but it leaves us with a lot to think about. What safeguards do you think are essential as we continue to develop and integrate more and more AI and robotic systems into our world?
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks everyone.